I have to admit, looking at the stack of research we have for today, I almost feel like I should be whispering.
Hey, yeah.
We are tackling a subject that it feels illegal just to talk about. It's the kind of thing where, if you Google it, you half expect a black van to pull up outside your house 5 minutes later.
It definitely has that reputation. It's sort of the modern digital equivalent of urban legends about haunted houses or forbidden rituals.
Exactly. We are talking about the dark web, and honestly, before we even open these files, my brain was already going to all the cliche places.
Oh, for sure.
I'm thinking hackers in hoodies sitting in damp basements, code cascading down the screen like in The Matrix, hitmen for hire, red rooms.
All of it.
Basically, the plot of every single cyber thriller movie from the last 10 years.
Which is completely understandable because that is the narrative we have been fed. I mean, the media, Hollywood, even some fear-mongering news reports, they all paint this picture of a neon-lit, lawless underworld where anything and everything goes.
But, and this is a big but, we have gone through the architecture papers, the security reports, the debunking guides, and the reality seems to be, well, significantly less cinematic.
That it's, putting it mildly, the gap between the myth of the dark web and the technical reality of the dark web is probably the widest gap in all of technology. It's a chasm.
One of the notes here actually describes the experience of using the dark web as tedious, slow, and mostly broken. That's not exactly the high-octane thrill ride I was expecting.
It's not. And that's really our mission today. We aren't here to tell ghost stories. We are here to actually pop the hood on the internet and see how this specific engine works.
Right.
We need to demystify this because, frankly, understanding how the dark web works actually teaches you a lot about how the regular internet works, and more importantly, how your own privacy works, or doesn't work.
So we're going to strip away the horror stories and look at the nuts and bolts. But to do that, we have to start with the map, the geography of the internet. Because I think most people, myself included, have this very flat idea of the web. You type a URL, you go to a page. Simple.
Right.
But the sources, they just keep bringing up this one visual metaphor over and over again, the iceberg.
It is the classic analogy for a reason. It perfectly illustrates the scale and the visibility of data, or lack thereof.
Okay, so paint the picture for us. We're on a boat. We have an iceberg floating in the ocean.
Right. So you're standing on the deck of a ship and you look out, you see the white ice sticking up above the water. That tiny little tip that is the surface web.
Layer 1, the stuff we can actually see.
Precisely. This is everything that is indexed by standard search engines. Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, you name it. If a spider, which is just a bot that crawls the web, can find a link, follow it, and catalog the content, it's on the surface web.
So this is our daily life. YouTube, Wikipedia, news sites, public social media profiles.
Yes, all of it. And here is where people usually get the scale completely wrong. How much of the total World Wide Web do you think that surface web, the part we see and use every day, how much do you think it accounts for?
I mean, it feels infinite, right? There are billions, maybe trillions of pages. It has to be the bulk of it.
It's estimated to be about 5 to 10%, maybe even less.
Wow. Okay. That is wild. So you're saying 90% or more of the internet is underwater.
Correct. It's completely submerged. And this is where we hit the first major point of confusion. We have to separate layer 2 from layer 3. The massive chunk of ice underwater, the structural bulk of the entire internet, is the deep web.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there because I guarantee half the people listening just thought, wait, deep web and dark web are the same thing. I hear them used interchangeably constantly.
They are absolutely not the same thing. In fact, conflating them is the source of almost all of the fear and misinformation. The deep web isn't dark or evil. It is simply private.
So what defines the deep web technically? Why can't Google see it?
Think about how a search engine actually works. It follows public links. It cannot type in passwords. It cannot fill out search forms on a dynamic database.
Right, it can't log in.
Exactly. So anything hidden behind a login screen or anything that is generated dynamically only when you ask for it is in the deep web.
Give me a mundane example, like the most boring example you can think of.
Your online banking. When you log in to check your balance, that page showing account balance, $500, is generated specifically for you in that moment behind a secure login. Google cannot crawl that page. If it could, your black balance would show up in public search results.
Which would be a total disaster.
A complete disaster. Your Gmail inbox is on the deep web. The staging area for a WordPress blog before you hit publish is on the deep web. Corporate intranets, medical records, academic databases that require subscription, all of it.
So the deep web isn't a place you go to buy drugs. It's just administrative infrastructure. It's the plumbing of the internet.
It's the boring backbone of the world. You are on the deep web every single day, multiple times a day. If we didn't have a deep web, we wouldn't have privacy. We would have to publish everything to the public or not have it online at all.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So that's the massive underwater mountain of ice. But then, buried somewhere deep inside that ice, or maybe in a little cave inside the ice, is layer 3, the dark web.
Right. The dark web is a tiny specific subset of the deep web. It shares the characteristic that it's not indexed, you can't Google it, but it adds a whole new layer of complexity and intention.
What's the technical threshold then? What separates a deep website, like my email, from a dark website?
It comes down to two things, access and addressing. To get to your email, you use a standard browser, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, use standard protocols. To get to the dark web, you need specific, specialized software.
Okay.
The most common one, and the one we're really focusing on for this deep dive, is Tor,
Tor, T-O-R.
which stands for the Onion Router.
The onion router. And this is where the addresses get weird, right? On the surface web, we have .com, .org, .net, but on the dark web, the sources say everything ends in .onion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can't just type a .onion address into Chrome. It won't resolve. It won't work. The regular domain name system, which is basically the phone book of the internet, doesn't know what to do with it. It's not in the directory. You need the Tor browser to translate that address and find the path.
So if the surface web is the public street and the deep web is a private building with a locked door.
The dark web is a secret tunnel under the building that doesn't appear on any city map, and you need a custom-built vehicle to even fit inside it.
I love that. Okay, so let's talk about that vehicle, the Tor browser. How does it actually work? Because the sources emphasize that the architecture of Tor is what makes the dark web dark. It's not just about hiding the content, it's about hiding the user.
Right. This is the core of it. The onion in the onion router isn't just a cute name. It is a perfect description of the encryption method. Layers. So let's walk through a connection. On the normal web, you type in a website, your computer says, hey, ISP, your internet service provider, please connect me to this server. It's a pretty direct line. Your ISP knows who you are and where you are going. The website knows who you are, or at least your IP address.
It's like sending a postcard. The postman can read the address, the recipient can see the return address. There's no privacy in the transit.
Exactly. Tor changes the game entirely. When you use the Tor browser, your traffic doesn't go straight to the destination. It enters the Tor network, which consists of thousands of volunteer computers all over the world. These are called nodes or relays.
Volunteer computers, like just random people's servers and PCs.
Well, it's more organized than that. It's often universities, privacy activists, research institutions, and yes, some dedicated individuals who run these relays to support the network.
Okay, so my data enters this network of volunteers. What happens then?
It bounces. Specifically, it usually takes 3 hops. You have the entry guard, the middle relay, and the exit node.
Walk us through the onion part of that. How do the layers work?
Before your data leaves your computer, the Tor client wraps it in 3 layers of encryption. Imagine putting a letter in an envelope, then putting that envelope in a bigger envelope, and then that 1 1/3 even bigger envelope.
Okay, 3 nested envelopes. Got it.
Your computer sends this stack of envelopes to the first node, the entry guard. This node peels off the first outermost layer of encryption. Inside, it finds instructions that say, send this next packet to the middle relay.
And crucially, what doesn't it know?
It doesn't know what the final message is, and it doesn't know the final destination. It only knows who you are, your IP address, and who the next guy in the chain is.
So the first guy knows I'm sending something, but he doesn't know what it is or where it's ultimately going.
Correct. Now the packet goes to the middle relay. It peers off the second layer. Inside, it sees instructions. Send this to the exit node. The middle relay is completely in the dark. It doesn't know who the original sender is, and it doesn't know the final content. It just knows it came from node A and is going to node C.
It's a blind handoff. It's a digital dead drop.
Exactly. Then it hits the exit node. This is the final hop. The exit node peels the final layer of encryption. Now, it can see the destination. It sends your request out to the website you wanted to visit.
But at this point, the trail is completely cold.
Right. The website you're visiting sees a request coming from the exit node, which might be in Germany or Sweden or Japan, not from your house in Ohio. And the exit node has no idea who originated the request because it only saw it come from the middle relay. No single point in the chain knows both the origin and the destination.
It's digital money laundering, but for data.
That is a very, very apt comparison. It watches the metadata, the identifying information from your traffic.
But this brings up a massive point that the sources highlight, and I want to double click on this. This process provides anonymity. It does not provide invisibility.
A crucial, crucial distinction.
Because the exit node,
Yeah.
it has to peel that last layer, right?
Right.
So if I'm sending something unencrypted like a plain text message to a regular website, doesn't the exit node see it?
Yes. This is the single biggest vulnerability in using Tor for general browsing. If you are using Tor to visit a standard HTTP site, not HTTPS on the surface web, that exit node can see all your traffic in plain text.
Wow.
It doesn't know who you are, but it knows what is being sent. There have been documented cases of malicious exit nodes being set up specifically to sniff traffic for passwords or other sensitive data.
So you're anonymous, but you're not a ghost. You're just a stranger in a mask, and what you're saying can still be overheard.
Exactly. Now, on the dark web proper, when you're visiting those onion sites, it's a bit different. The traffic never actually leaves the Tor network, so there is no exit node in that traditional sense. The encryption stays intact all the way to the site. That's what they call end-to-end anonymity.
Which brings us to the why. Why build this? Because when you explain it like that, bouncing signals, heavy encryption, hiding identities, it sounds like it was built for spies.
Well, it was.
Oh, okay, I was joking, but
No, you were right on the money. The core routing technology was developed by the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory in the mid-90s. The original goal was to protect U.S. intelligence communications online.
wait. So the U.S. government built the technology behind the dark web.
They built the underlying tech, yes, the Onion Routing Project, or Tor, and then they released it into the public domain as free and open source software.
Why? Why on earth would you do that? If you have a secret spy network, why let everyone use it?
It's a fantastic question, and the logic is actually brilliant. It's called cover traffic.
Cover traffic.
Think about it. If only spies use this secret network, then anyone you see using that network is obviously a spy. You stand out like a sore thumb.
Right. The secret club isn't secret if you know who all the members are.
Exactly. So you need cover traffic. You need thousands, millions of regular people, activists, journalists, and even criminals using the network so that the spies can hide in the crowd. Anonymity loves company. The more diverse the users, the safer it is for everyone.
That is 4D chess right there. Wow. But this segues perfectly into the legitimate uses section of our research, because the knee-jerk reaction is, if you need this much secrecy, you must be doing something illegal.
You know the old, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear argument.
That is, I think, the most dangerous fallacy in the entire privacy debate. Nothing to hide assumes you live in a world where the rules never change, the authorities are always benevolent, and you'll never be in a position where your private words are used against you.
The sources list some users of the dark web that definitely aren't drug dealers. The first one that really caught my eye was the New York Times.
Yes. The New York Times, the BBC, ProPublica, Deutsche Welle, even Facebook and the CIA, they all have dedicated .onion addresses.
Wait, Facebook has a dark website? That seems like the complete opposite of their business model, which is collecting all of our data. It does, but think about where their users are. If you are an activist in Iran, or a citizen in China, or a journalist in Russia, direct access to Facebook or the BBC might be blocked by a national firewall. The government censors the traffic.
Okay.
By using Tor and accessing the Douyin version of Facebook, those citizens can bypass that state-level censorship. The government can't see what site they are visiting because of the encryption layers we just talked about. They just see a connection to the Tor network, which could be for anything.
So for millions of people, the dark web isn't a place to buy contraband. It's the only way to access the regular internet uncensored.
Exactly. It's a critical tool for circumventing oppression. And then you have the whistleblowers. This is a huge, huge use case.
Secure drop. I see that name all over the documentation. Can you explain how that works?
Sure. Imagine you are an employee at a large chemical company. You discover internal documents showing they are illegally dumping toxic waste into a local river and covering it up. You have the documents. You want to send them to a journalist.
Okay, my options are limited. If I email them from my work computer, I'm fired and probably sued. If I email them from home, the metadata traces back to my ISP and my home address.
Right. And even if you go to a coffee shop and use a burner phone, geolocation data or camera footage can get you. The risk is immense.
So what's the alternative?
So major news organizations like The Guardian or The Intercept set up a secure drop server on a .onion address. You, the whistleblower, download the Tor browser, You go to this special address. The system generates a random anonymous code name for you. You upload the documents.
And what does the journalist see?
They receive the documents on a machine that is air-gapped, meaning it's not connected to the regular internet at all. They decrypt them. They can then communicate with you through the secure drop interface using that code name, but they genuinely do not know who you are. They can't burn their source, even under pressure, because the technology prevented them from ever knowing the source's identity in the first place.
So it forces a technological barrier between the source and the reporter to protect them both.
It creates a safety zone for truth.
Hmm.
Without this kind of technology, many of the major corruption and government scandals of the last decade simply wouldn't have come to light. The risk for the sources would have been far too high.
It's so interesting. In a free society, we look at the dark web and we see drugs and crime. In an authoritarian society, they look at the dark web and see truth and freedom.
Perspective is everything. The technology itself is neutral. It's just a pipe. What you choose to put through the pipe is what defines the morality of the act.
Let's be honest, a lot of people do put bad stuff through that pipe.
Without a doubt.
And this is where we have to pivot to the fun part, the myths. Because my mental image of the dark web is still haunted by those creepy pastas.
The internet ghost stories. The digital folklore.
Yes. And I want to go through these one by one because the research here is brutal in debunking them. And I feel like a bit of an idiot for believing some of these for so long.
Don't feel bad.
Yeah.
They are designed to be believable. They prey on our lack of technical knowledge and our primal fears.
Okay, let's start with the big one. The absolute king of dark web myths. The Red Room.
Ah, the Red Room.
For anyone lucky enough to not know, the legend is that you can find these hidden sites where you pay Bitcoin to watch a live stream of a real murder or torture. And this is the truly ghoulish part. The audience can type commands in the chat to direct the violence. Use the knife. And the torturer does it.
It is the ultimate horror movie scenario brought into the digital age.
And according to every single expert source we have, every law enforcement agency, every cybersecurity analyst, it's fake.
It is a complete and total fabrication. It does not exist. There has never been a verified case of a real Red Room.
Okay, play devil's advocate for a second. Why can't it exist? Bad people exist, cameras exist, the internet exists. What's the barrier?
It comes back to the onion routing we talked about earlier. Remember how the traffic bounces through 3 different volunteer nodes all over the world?
Yeah, the digital pinball machine.
That process introduces massive latency. It is incredibly slow. If you have ever used Tor for more than 5 minutes, you know that loading a simple text page can take 10, 15, even 30 seconds. It feels like browsing the web in 1999 on a dial-up modem.
So you're saying the connection is just way too crappy to stream video?
To stream high-definition, real-time, low-latency video, it is technically impractical, bordering on completely impossible. You cannot have an interactive stream where you type, "do this," and the person on screen reacts instantly. The lag would be minutes long, the video would buffer constantly, and the connection would almost certainly drop.
So the very technology that would hide the criminal also prevents the crime from being broadcast effectively.
Precisely. Tor is built for anonymity, not bandwidth. But there is another, more human reason it's fake. OPSEC operational security. To stream high-quality video, you need a consistent, high-bandwidth connection from a server. That creates a massive digital footprint. It makes it much easier for law enforcement to use traffic analysis and other techniques to triangulate the source of the stream. A criminal smart enough to set up a Red Room would be smart enough to know that streaming it is the single fastest way to get caught.
But I've seen the screenshots. There are sites that claim to be Red Rooms. They have countdown timers and everything.
Ah, yes. And what do those sites invariably ask for?
Bitcoin. Usually a pretty steep entry fee. Pay $0.5 Bitcoin to enter the room.
And that is the reality. It's a scam. It's a static web page with a scary picture, maybe a looping video, and a countdown clock. You get curious or you're a very sick individual, and you send the money. The clock hits 0, and poof, nothing happens.
The site refreshes to the same page, or it just goes to a 404 error.
And your money is gone.
Yeah.
And who are you going to complain to? The police. "Officer, I tried to pay to watch a live torture stream, and they scanned me out of my crypto."
Laughs. Yet that's not a report you're going to file. It's the perfect crime because the victim is already complicit in a much worse crime.
It is, as one source put it, scammers scamming wannabe psychopaths.
That is a very specific and very bleak demographic. Okay, myth number 2, the instant hack. The fear that if I just download Tor and open a single onion link, a skull and crossbones appears on my screen, and my bank account instantly drains.
We see this in movies all the time. The protagonist clicks a forbidden link, and suddenly the computer starts smoking, and all the lights in the house go out.
Right. Is it that dangerous? Can you get hacked just by looking?
No. Modern browsers, including the Tor browser, which is based on Firefox, are sandboxed.
Sandbox.
It means they're designed to keep the code from a website contained within the browser window. It's like a digital playpen. Just visiting a website, loading the HTML and images, cannot magically take over your entire computer. That would require a massive unpatched zero-day vulnerability in the browser itself, which is incredibly rare.
So just looking is generally safe.
Generally, yes. The danger comes from interaction. If you see a link that says secretfbidocuments.zip or freebitcoinminer.exe and you download that file,
And then you run that file on your computer.
now you are in a world of trouble. You have just invited the malware in.
So it's the vampire rule. They can't come in unless you invite them.
Exactly. The dark web isn't a magical hacking zone with different rules. It's just a collection of web pages. You get hacked by being reckless and making bad decisions, not just by being there.
Okay, myth number 3, and this one is tied to that iceberg analogy. The dark web is huge. I hear people say it's the other 90% of the internet.
That's that classic confusion with the deep web again.
Yeah.
The deep web, the underwater part of the iceberg, is enormous. The dark web, the actual number of active .onion sites, it's tiny.
Give me a number. What are we talking about?
Estimates vary because it's hard to track, but we are talking about maybe 50,000 to 100,000 unique onion addresses at any given time. And here's the real kicker. Most of them are dead.
Dead, as in offline.
Completely offline. Abandoned. Because these sites aren't hosted in big Amazon data centers, they're often hosted on personal servers in someone's basement or on a Raspberry Pi in a closet.
Do they go down constantly?
All the time.
Yeah.
The power goes out, the internet connection drops, the person gets bored and shuts it down. One of our source materials describes the experience of browsing the dark web as a digital graveyard. You have a list of links and you just click error, click 404, not found.
That really ruins the mystique a bit.
It's not a bustling cyberpunk metropolis.
Yeah.
It's a dilapidated ghost town with a few shady back alleys that are still active, and maybe a library that's always open.
Final myth, and this is a big one. Hackers can track you instantly. The fear that the second you log on, some shadowy hacker knows your real name and address.
Right, that your anonymity is fragile and can be broken in a second.
Kiss it.
The system itself, the Tor encryption, is incredibly robust. It has been analyzed by the world's top cryptographers. The way people actually get caught is almost never because the technology failed. It's because of bad OPSE.
OPSC, operational security, human error.
Human error, 100%. People make simple, stupid mistakes. They use the same username on a dark web forum that they use for their Twitter handle.
Oh, no.
Or they're logged into their real Gmail account in one tab while browsing the dark web in another, creating a link. Or they just get arrogant and brag on a forum about something that can be traced back to them in the real world.
So it's not the tech, it's the person using the tech.
It's almost always the person.
Okay, so the monsters aren't real, the video streams don't work, the hacking isn't instant, and the place is mostly empty, but we cannot let the listener think it's a safe playground. There are real dangers.
Absolutely. Just because the woods aren't haunted doesn't mean there aren't bears.
And the biggest bear, according to all of our notes, is economics. It's just plain old scams.
The dark web is a scammer's paradise.
Ah.
If you go there looking for illegal goods, drugs, weapons, fake IDs, whatever, you are statistically far more likely to get ripped off and lose your money than to ever receive the item you paid for.
Let's talk about the marketplaces, because I've seen screenshots, and they look surprisingly professional.
They do. They are designed to look exactly like Amazon or eBay. They have search bars, product categories, vendor profiles, and most importantly, user reviews. 5 stars, fast shipping, great stealth.
It is surreal to see detailed customer service reviews for a bag of heroin.
It is the only way the market can function. In a place with no laws and no courts, reputation is the only currency that matters. You trust a vendor because hundreds of other anonymous users said they delivered the goods.
But even that trust is weaponized. This exit scam concept absolutely blew my mind. Can you walk us through the life cycle of one of these scams?
Sure. This is the standard business cycle of almost every major dark web market. Phase 1. Launch. New market opens. The admins run a very tight ship. They might have low or no fees. The site has great uptime. They actively ban scammers. They work very hard to build trust in the community.
They act like legitimate, responsible businessmen.
Exactly. Then comes Phase 2. Growth. Word spreads. People flock to the new, trustworthy site. Thousands, then millions of dollars in cryptocurrency are flowing through the site's escrow system every single day.
Escrow. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so to protect buyers, you don't pay the dealer directly. You pay the site. The site holds the money in escrow until you receive the package in the mail and confirm it. Then, and only then, do they release the funds to the vendor. It's supposed to protect the buyer from getting ripped off.
In theory.
In theory. Then comes phase 3, the exit. The pot of money sitting in those escrow wallets gets huge. We're talking millions, sometimes tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars. And one day, the admins decide, okay, that's enough. They shut down the servers, they transfer all the cryptocurrency and all the escrow wallets to their own private accounts, and they vanish.
So everyone who had an order pending at that moment
Loses everything. The buyers lose their money, the vendors lose the payment for the product they just shipped, everyone gets burned.
And then I assume a new market opens up the next week claiming to be the most secure, exit scam-proof market ever.
And the whole cycle repeats itself over and over again. It is a snake eating its own tail forever.
What about the hitmen for hire sites? Because I feel like I do see news stories about people getting arrested for trying to do this.
People get arrested for trying to hire hitmen, but the sites themselves, they are almost universally honeypots or scams.
Honeypots?
Meaning they are either run by scammers who will take your Bitcoin and post your conversations publicly to mock you, or they are run by the FBI or another law enforcement agency.
So your only two options are you're talking to a common thief or you're talking to a federal agent.
Pretty much. Yeah. Think about the logic of it. You are an anonymous professional assassin. Why would you ever trust an anonymous client on the internet? Why would you risk life in prison for a stranger's Bitcoin? It makes absolutely no sense. The Besa Mafia site was a famous example of this. It turned out to be just a massive scam operation run by someone in Eastern Europe who eventually leaked the entire user database of people who tried to hire them.
So, long story short, if you go to the dark web to do evil, you are probably just going to get ripped off by someone slightly more evil than you.
Or caught.
Right. Let's not forget the cops.
Risk number 2. Law enforcement is very, very much present on the dark web.
They are everywhere. We mentioned earlier that Tor provides anonymity, but OPSC fails. The police are very good at exploiting that human error. They infiltrate these markets, they pose as buyers, they pose as sellers, they trace the money. Bitcoin is not nearly as anonymous as people think.
So the public ledger. Every transaction is recorded forever. Exactly. If you buy Bitcoin with your credit card at an exchange like Coinbase and then send that Bitcoin directly to a dark web market, you have just drawn a big, bright, permanent line from your real-world plug account to the illegal activity.
So much for being a criminal mastermind.
The Silk Road takedown, Alpha Bay, Hansa Market, these were massive, multi-year international police operations involving dozens of agencies. The idea that the dark web is some lawless zone where the police can't touch you is a complete fantasy. They are watching. They are just watching very, very quietly.
So we have the architecture, the legitimate uses, the myths, and the real risks. When you boil it all down, what is the actual vibe of being on the dark web? If you go there today, what do you see?
It's messy. It's chaotic. It's mostly just disappointing.
The phrase from the summary that really stuck with me was the boring truth.
It is so boring. If you aren't a journalist trying to upload a leak, or an activist trying to communicate, or a criminal trying to buy drugs, there's almost nothing there for you. You'll find some old conspiracy theory forums, maybe some weird digital art projects, a lot of extremist political sites, a ton of broken links, and an ocean of scams.
It's not the neon-lit cyberpunk city from the movies. It's a dusty, abandoned storage locker facility out in the desert.
That is the perfect image. Most of the lockers are empty. Some of them have old, broken junk inside. A few have stolen goods. And occasionally one is being used by a political dissident hiding from the secret police.
It really reframes the whole conversation. We treat it like this mystical, evil entity, but at the end of the day, it's just a tool.
It's a protocol. It's code. And code doesn't have morality. People do.
Okay, let's do a sort of rapid-fire reality check to sum things up. True or false, based on what we've discussed? The dark web is illegal.
False. Accessing it is not illegal. The technology is just a privacy tool.
The dark web is private.
True. It's designed for anonymity.
Red rooms are real.
False. That's a hoax, a technical impossibility, and a scam.
Scams are common.
True. It is probably the most scam-ridden place on the internet.
You'll get hacked instantly.
False. Not unless you make a reckless mistake.
Law enforcement is present.
True. Very, very true.
So let's synthesize this. We started this episode talking about fear. The fear of the unknown, the fear of this dark corner of the internet.
And what we found, I think, is that the fear is mostly misplaced. We are afraid of Hollywood monsters like red rooms and super hackers, but those aren't the real threats.
The real threat is our own behavior, our own lack of security practices, and our own greed or curiosity.
Precisely. The dark web is a reflection of human nature. It contains the desire for privacy and freedom, like journalists and activists, and it contains the desire for illicit gain, like drug dealers and scammers. The technology enables both.
And I want to leave the listener with a final thought that kind of hit me while we were prepping this. We spend so much energy worrying about the dark web, this tiny, hidden, mostly broken corner of the internet. But think about the deep web for a second. Our medical records, our bank details, our private chats with our family, our entire digital lives.
That is where our actual lives live, in the deep web.
And then think about the surface web, the social media giants, the ad trackers, the data brokers. They are harvesting data from us every second of every day. They know where we are, what we buy, who we vote for, what we're afraid of, and who we love.
That is the ultimate irony, isn't it?
Yeah.
We fear the dark web because it's hidden and anonymous, but the real massive invasion of our privacy is happening in broad daylight on the websites and apps we use every single day, and we just click, I agree, without a second thought.
Maybe we should worry a little less about the mythical monsters in the dark and a lot more about who is watching us in the light.
That is the real scary story.
On that very cheerful note, stay safe, check your privacy settings, and thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
See you next time.